At the second temple model in the Israel Museum.
Yes.
We saw the walls. Remember, Josephus speaks of 3 walls. The outer one was the third wall, which is today the area of Misrata, from the north. And the corner of the second wall was right here.
That built by Herods, right?
Okay?
That built by Herods, the second wall?
The second, right.
The expansion of Herod.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay? So this gate is an ancient passageway. And it makes much sense because when you come from the outside, from the north, it's also easier to come by foot.
Because there's no valleys.
Exactly. Okay, there's a very mild slope, and you go down, and from 3 sides, it all goes into the Central Valley. Now what?
It would be the northeastern corner, right?
Pardon?
Northeastern.
Northeastern of the second wall, right. Yeah.
That's why we can see down there in the walking stones.
Okay, now, the very base, unfortunately, we could not go. There is a site that you could go in, but we could not, they wouldn't let us in today, I don't know why. There is a site called the Roman Square. And both the ramparts wall and the Roman Square are run by a body called PAMI, P-A-M-I. In Hebrew, it's Pituach Mizrach Yerushalayim, Development of East Jerusalem, DEJ. Okay, so they're in charge, their office, if you want to coordinate a visit, they're in charge of these sites and also of Zedekiah's cave, King Solomon's quarries, which was just reopened. But now there's no place for diving, there's like all kind of films and programs. Now, this area is the major entrance to Jerusalem from the north. And remember that in roughly 40 conquests of Jerusalem,
How many? 40.
40. Where do they usually come from?
North.
North. That's the easiest place where you can assemble a whole army and then just exactly slow down.
And that's why it's
Exactly.
two of both.
Thank you. And this is why that's the only gate from the 16th century, from the current wall, that has a double entry.
Double L.
And exactly, double L. Now, the earliest stones that we have here, and just listen before you write down. At the very basement, we have Herodian cut stones, like in the Western Wall, but apparently they were only placed there in the 2nd century. And there was a whole debate among scholars whether it's an original Herodian gate or only 2nd century. What happens to Jerusalem in the 2nd century?
Destroyed.
We have the 1st century up until the year 70, the temple is destroyed, the city burned down. Exactly. From the year 135, 135, Jerusalem becomes a pagan Roman colony. Area
Capitolina.
Okay, Capitolina after the 3 Capitoline gods of Capitol Hill in Rome, that's the origin of the name. An area because it's part of the family name of the current emperor, Hadrian. And Arius, Hadrianus, etc. He has more names. We won't go over.
It becomes a pagan city.
Yeah.
So what we have, in the year 70, the city destroyed, the temple destroyed. Who sits in the city?
Romans.
The Roman legion, the 10th legion. Okay, and we have evidence for it. Okay, we have a tile factory and all kinds of other and coins and other things. In the year 129, 130, Emperor Hadrian visits the eastern provinces, our side and east of the Jordan River, the Transjordan. Okay? And for this visit, many cities are going under great renovations. Those who've been to Jarash or other places, Pella, or
Who visited who?
sorry, for Hadrian. Okay, they have renovated cities, new roads. In the Transjordan, we still have parts of it. And Jerusalem apparently is starting to prepare. But then what happens in the year 132, 132
Bar Kokhba, revolt.
Bar Kokhba revolt. The Jews don't like it. There was a whole debate among scholars. What came first? whether the preparations for the Roman colony, and this got the Jews angry and they rebelled, or did they first rebel and the punishment was making their holy city a Roman colony? And also calling the whole land how?
Syria.
Syria, Palestina.
Palestina. This is where the name starts from. Again, part of the punishment of Hadrian.
So that,
Now, what we know today, they found coins of Bar Kokhba minted on coin of Hadrian. Okay, so the first, probably what happened, they started preparations for the Roman colony. The Jews got angry and the rebellion broke out. 3 years of fighting, 4 Roman legions. And it cost the Romans, now it's a very faraway province that nobody thought would anybody would care about. But it was so costly to the Roman soldiers. Usually when an emperor comes back from battle, he says, "Peace to me and to my legions." He didn't say it this time, because the price, surprisingly, was quite hard. But of course the Romans won, and then in 135, the city is founded. Now, a nice evidence of why the Jews...
What the city is founded?
Aelia Capitolina is now founded. The rebellion was crushed, and the Roman colony was founded. And I want to show you a coin. It says C-O-L, Colonia, Aelia, A-E-L, K-A-P.
Can we take a clear picture, please?
Yeah, if you please send it to everyone. Colonia, Aelia Capitolina, Condita, founded, C-O-N-D. Now the usual way of founding a city, the Roman Empire way of founding a city is take 2 bulls, oxen, and a plow, and with the plowshare you mark the border of the city. It's called pomerium, the holy border. And then you found the walls where you plowed with the oxen. But in the Jewish Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, there is a verse, a prophecy says in Hebrew, Lachen Sion Sadeh Techaresh. Zion will be plowed into a field. And so the Jews who see the Romans do their usual thing now are reminded of the prophecy of the destruction of Zion, of the Holy Jerusalem. Okay. So this is one of the coins of Hadrian, and the coins of the Romans after the rebellion. Bar Kokhba rebellion was crushed. Usually what you read is Judea capta, Judea captured, conquered. Now usually they only say it about new provinces, new areas being conquered. This was already under Roman rule before. It's quite rare. But they had to win it again. And which again shows you how hard was the
What
3-year
about the
revolt.
letters on the coin again?
Colonia Aelia Capitolina Condita, founded. Okay, and you see the bulls.
The
and
coin,
plow.
the coin near of Judea Capita, it's the other one. It's where it's
It's a
kneeling.
different coin.
It's a different coin.
But from the same period.
Okay.
What's the translation?
1 second, was there a coin saying Judea Capta after the
The
first?
colony of Aelia Capitolina founded. Now,
Here, was there a coin Judea Capta after the first revolt?
not that we know. Good question. Okay, we don't know Judea Capta coins after the first revolt. It was shorter in their mind. And there's even a very rare coin that says Judea Recapta, recaptured.
Recaptured.
But that was vanished very soon because it wasn't good for the, not good for the emperor to see.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
the prophecy from which book?
In a moment, I'll try to come back to mine. Starting to be hard for you. Now, there used to be, this is the old city. Number 2 is where we are. Freestanding arch. Those who've been to Jerash in Jordan, okay, or other cities in Jordan, Syria.
The triumphal?
And there are freestanding gates. They're not connected with a wall. They don't have to be. But this is a sign that you come to civilization, that you enter a proper Roman city.
So 3 gates.
Okay, so what we have in Jerusalem, ignore number 1 for a sec. My number 2 is right here, the base of Damascus Gate.
Yeah.
Number 3, we're going to be there, is under the Sisters of Zion Convent.
The arch تبع Oklahoma.
Okay, the Arch of the Eke or Ecce Homo. And number 4 is right next to the Holy Sepulchre, where today we have the Russian Church of Nevsky, Alexander Nevsky. We're going to be both today. Okay, so these arches, they're huge. They look like gates, but they're not connected to walls.
Is it the triumphal?
They mark
Triumphal?
the main roads. Here, from the north, in the Sisters of Zion Convent, on the Lithotrotos, the road from the east, and where today we have the Holy Sepulchre from the west, or maybe, but probably from the west. That's the closest is Jaffa Gate. Okay, so this shows you the main streets of Jerusalem. In any Roman city, when I go from north to south, how is the main street called? Cardo. We're going to stop on it and walk on it later on.
هدول بوابة.
There were 2, by the way.
2 cars.
One goes left, one goes right. Okay, a lower one and an upper one. We'll speak of that later. And yeah, how is it? And if I go east-west, how do you call the street?
Decomanos.
This is very good.
Maximus.
Decomanos Maximus.
Okay, right. The main street would be the Maximus, and of course we have Cairo. Now, why did I say ignore the number 1?
Why?
About 400 meters north, they found in the 19th century a sculpture of a head. And some say, well, it looks like sculpture of Hadrian. And then they said, well, what is it doing there? There must have been another arch, triumphal arch, over
Triumphal.
there.
Yeah, triumphal.
Now scholars say it's not that true. We don't actually know if it's really Hadrian or not. So we don't know. What we know for sure are 3 arches. And I would expect an arch to be at Jaffa Gate location, but nothing was found. Okay, so what we have archaeologically, 3 places. We're gonna see all 3 today.
Very good.
Under us, the Roman Damascus Gate and the Roman Square. We know in Byzantine times there was a pillar in the center of the square. We don't know what was on it. It may be the emperor, maybe Jesus, we have no clue. But how is the gate called in Arabic?
باب العمود.
Bab al-Amud.
ومين استرى العمود؟
Sorry? Now it's amazing that the locals preserve the memory of this pillar of the Amud, but nobody saw it. Only in the late 19th century, with the mosaic of Madaba found in Jordan, on the mosaic you have a pillar in Damascus Gate. Now, in times of the Crusaders, it was also called St. Stephen's Gate in different times. And right outside was a church dedicated to Abraham. Where is it?
أيوه أبراهيم.
أيوه.
Honor, right outside. Okay, you know it was a bit long, so